Buying a car in Carvana was so easy. I was able to finance it through them.
Whoa, wait, you mean finance?
Yeah, finance. Got pre-qualified for a Carvana auto loan, entered my terms, and shot from thousands of great car options all within my budget.
That's cool, but financing through Carvana was so easy.
Financed. Done. And I get to pick up my car from their Carvana vending machine tomorrow.
Financed.
Right, that's what I said.
You can spend time trying to pronounce financing, or you can actually finance and buy your car today on
Carvana.
Financing subject to credit approval. Additional terms and conditions may apply.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Chibi and Chill, the anime and Pokemon podcast, and it is spooky season. It is starting to draw in the night time. It's getting a little bit chilly. Pumpkin spice is starting to come out everywhere, and it's my favourite season. And recently, we've had the release of the final Conjuring film, The Conjuring Last Rites. And tonight, in this episode, we're crossing over into one of the most infamous horror universes, The Conjuring, but with a Pokemon twist. But let's start with the real history, because long before these stories hit the big screen, there were two people at the centre of it all, and it was actually their lives. It was Ed and Lorraine Warren. So, before we dive into anything Pokemon, let's learn about who they were. If you've watched the films, you'll be more than aware of them, but for anyone who hasn't or just wants a refresher, who were the Warrens? Now, Ed Warren was a self-taught demonologist, and Lorraine Warren, his wife, was a clairvoyant and a medium. Together, they became America's most famous paranormal investigators, and over decades of work, the Warrens investigated some of the most notorious hauntings in history around the world. The Perron family, for example, had the haunting in Rhode Island, which inspired the first The Conjuring film. The Enfield Poltergeist in London, the case of the possessed doll Annabelle, and even the chilling Amityville Horror. But beyond their investigations, the Warrens built something truly unsettling, which is their private occult museum in their Connecticut home. Inside they stored cursed objects, haunted artifacts, and items they deemed too dangerous to leave lying around loose in the world, from ritual masks to satanic relics to the infamous Annabelle doll itself. The Warrens always warned visitors these objects weren't just curiosities, they were prisons holding onto dark forces that should never be released. Now, with that in mind, what if the Warrens had to catch them all? What if the artifacts in the museum weren't just dolls and cursed trinkets, but Poké Balls containing the most dangerous and haunted Pokemon of all time? That's what this episode is going to be about. It's the Warrens Pokemon Artifact Room. Now close your eyes and join me on a tour of the Warrens Pokemon Museum, and let's see what spooky Pokemon the Warrens deemed way too dangerous to be left loose. Before we dive in, be sure to subscribe. This podcast is for everyone who loves Pokemon, and I'd love it to reach more fans, more lovers of this franchise. So be sure to smash the subscribe button no matter where you're listening to this on. There are new episodes every single Friday, and if you're on Instagram and TikTok, find me over on there and give me a follow. It is Chibi Trainer on TikTok and Instagram, and there's new content going up every single day. So section 1 is haunted dolls and toys. Now, every horror story starts with something innocent, a doll or a toy, or in this case, a Pokemon, which is the case of the vengeful doll, Bennett. Now, the Warrens would see Bennett as the Pokemon version of Annabelle, a toy abandoned by its owner, cursed into life by hatred. Its entire existence is vengeance. Leaving it free would risk it hunting down anyone who reminded it of its betrayal. Definitely an artifact for a locked glass case for sure. Now, This Pokemon Banette first appeared in Advanced Generation, and Harley's Banette was sneaky, cruel, and relished unsettling May during contests, but Banette is said to be a doll abandoned by its owner and now animated by pure hatred, which is what makes it so dark. In both the anime and games, its creepy zipper mouth and obsession with revenge makes it one of the most unsettling ghost types. Its entire existence comes from betrayal, so it totally fits that kind of Annabelle and Curse kind of vibe. This one also has a Mega Evolution, which takes that zipper vibe into a whole nother level, and it's absolutely amazing. Right next to Banette, we'd see Mimikyu, the Case of the Hidden Horror. Ed and Lorraine would be terrified of Mimikyu's disguise. No one has ever seen its true form without paying a deadly price. The Warrens would trap it not because of what it does, but because of what it is. A living embodiment of loneliness and death, too dangerous to reveal. Now, Mimikyu is it is my absolute favorite Pokemon, and I needed this one to be on this list, and it totally fits the vibe. Jessie's main partner in Sun and Moon, and it is an Alolan Pokemon, and it's always trying to destroy Pikachu. Its cloth disguise is never removed, even in the anime, but it's so dark because the anime leaned into its kind of game lore. Mimikyu's true form is so horrifying that it causes death if you see it. It wears the ragged Pikachu disguise to be loved, but instead it's kind of feared because it's kind of similar but not right. Its constant aggression towards Pikachu suggests deep jealousy and loneliness, a tragic blend of scary and sad. I would be drawn to Mimikyu straight away. I would not even need to be asked twice. I would end up really seeing that one again, if I'm honest. Next is, if we move a little bit down in the museum, we go to section 2, which is Spirits of the Dead. Now this one is Yamask, the Case of the Weeping Soul. Now a Pokemon that carries its own death mask, crying as it remembers its human life. To the Warrens, Yamask would be proof of spirits that cannot move on. It's not evil, but its tragic nature and ties to the dead will make it a key haunted relic to contain and proof of the afterlife. James now caught one in Black and White, one of my favourite generations, and unlike its creepy lore, his Yamask was kind and loyal, and this one in the anime was shown in the kind of museum setting, so it's perfectly suited for this kind of concept. But why it's dark is the fact that the Pokédex says Yamask carries a mask that was once its human face while it was alive. In the anime, this wasn't spotlighted, but the underlying lore makes it one of the darkest Pokemon ever, and one that's truly sad. It literally remembers its human past and cries when looking at its own mask, a soul trapped between life and death. It's also very cute, I will add. Now this one does evolve into Cofagrigus, and this one is the Case of the Cursed Coffin. Now this would be treated as more of a dangerous haunted object, I believe. So Cofagrigus lures in the greedy and devours, trapping their souls inside. The Warrens would see it as a cursed burial vessel that must be sealed before treasure hunters or occultists fell victim to it. And this one gives me that vibe of when you hear the stories of people that went to visit the tombs in Egypt and fell ill or end up getting hurt or unfortunately died because of what they believe happened to them after visiting the tombs, and it kind of fits that vibe. In the anime, it rarely appears, usually in ruins, but the anime hints at its Pokédex lore, but doesn't kind of show the full horror, it just kind of hints at it. This one is so dark because it said that it's said to swallow humans whole if they get too close, turning them into mummies, which sounds kind of weirdly fun and cute, but it's dark. In Pokemon World Legends, it's a coffin possessed by a spirit, making it an eternal tomb that traps the living. Even though the anime kind of toned it down, the idea behind Confronting is actually kind of terrifying. Treasure seekers who open Confronting may never return. A little bit further down the museum, if we turn the corner, we've got entities that feed on fear. Now this one we have Shuppet, which is the parasite of the hatred case. So the Warrens studied possessions and negative energy, and Shuppet literally feeds on jealousy and malice. Keeping it in the museum will prevent it from growing powerful off of the resentment of people nearby. They lock it up as a sort of spirit parasite, and in the anime, this was first shown haunting a mansion in Advanced Generation, which kind of made it more cheeky and playful than terrifying. But it's dark because Shuppet does feed on negative emotions like envy and malice. So those deeper emotions, the scarier implication of this is that it thrives when a human is consumed by bad feelings. Behind its playful anime role, it represents how grudges and bitterness and kind of darkness can literally take on a life of their own. So it kind of becomes an embodiment of those feelings. One of my favourite ones is Spiritomb, the case of the prison of 108 souls. Now, for the Warrens, this one would scare them the most. Spiritomb is a mass of human souls bound into one form after crimes in life. So it is the very definition of a demonic possession in the Pokemon world. The Warrens would treat Spiritomb as an ultimate cursed object through kind of pure volume of spirits, sealing it away like the most dangerous relic in their collection. Now in the anime, this one appeared in Diamond and Pearl, and it was accidentally freed and immediately attacked, treated as a dangerous force of nature. Now Spiritomb is made of 108 spirits sealed into a stone after its misdeeds. Its anime portrayal matches this, like chaotic, destructive nature and seemingly evilness. It's not just a ghost type, it's essentially a cursed human souls that are bound and kind of stuck together forever. That makes it one of the most sinister Pokemon, but I think it's one of the deepest one because it's so many people's lives trapped in one space and trapped and bound together forever. Now we go into the more childlike areas. This one is the case of Drifloon, the child stealer. Now the Warrens often worked on cases involving spirits targeting children. We hear those a lot. But Drifloon's reputation of luring kids away to the afterlife would truly horrify them, especially because of Lorraine's daughter Judy and the kind of motherly nature that would follow this case. Even if the anime softened it, the Warrens would see Drifloon as a predator spirit that must be locked away immediately. In anime, then Diamond and Pearl portrayed sweetly with Nurse Joy's children, the anime kind of softened the darker kind of tone and menace that this Pokemon has. But the Pokédex still says that Drifloon tries to carry children off to the afterlife. That folklore angle wasn't shown in the anime, but its design is literally a balloon that wants to drift away with the kids. It's rooted in the ghost stories. Its cute appearance is lovely, but its legend makes it one of the creepiest when you know the truth. It's cute because children are drawn to cute things. And to be fair, so am I. You know, a child will think it's a cute balloon and grab one of those strings and be drifted away. A little bit colder for the next case, so I hope you brought a coat with you, or at least a scarf. This one is the case of Frostlass, the Snow Witch. Now, Frostlass is based on the Yuki Onna, a deadly Japanese spirit. The Warrens fascinated with international folklore, and remember, they did cases around the world, so going over to a more rural location in Japan would be nothing to them. They will collect Frostlass as a living example of a frozen banshee, one that turns her victims into icy decorations is both beautiful and terrifying, which fits the museum's theme overall. Now, one question I would have is what would they do with the frozen decorations? Would they be also included with Frostlass or not? Let me know in the comments on social media. But it appeared in Diamond and Pearl, guarding Snowrun rather than being evil, and Snowrun is absolutely adorable. It was great. I love both the evolutions for this. But Frostlass is based on the Yuki Onna, a Japanese spirit that lures travelers into a snowy death. The anime is often this, obviously, but her design is an elegant but cold kind of ice ghost that carries that kind of old Japanese vibe about her. The scariest detail, however, is that Frostlass freezes her victims and displays them like dolls in her lair. Now, that one is super weird and interesting. She's obviously got a certain aesthetic going on, but I love that this one is so connected to that Japanese vibe, that Japanese folklore and heritage of that story. I think that's so interesting that they played on this, and I love this one. I think it's super interesting that it's got that kind of really dark lore. Now we go on to section 5, and this one is one of the darkest ones, which is the demonic tier. This one is Darkrai, the case of the nightmare demon. So while not evil, Darkrai's aura causes endless nightmares and sleep terrors. The Warrens investigated many cases of demonic dream attacks. Darkrai would be their Pokemon counterpart, I guess. It will be locked away, not for malice, but for the uncontrollable torment that this Pokemon can cause. In the anime, the main role in The Rise of Darkrai and Tobias's Sinnoh League battles is misunderstood for sure, but not evil. I think that's a big kind of vibe and theme for Darkrai. Darkrai doesn't mean harm particularly, but it introduces endless nightmares as more of a defense mechanism rather than attack, but it doesn't sit well with people. In the anime, towns feared it for that reason. Its loneliness comes from being driven away wherever it goes because of how it causes these dark nightmares. The concept of a Pokemon being trapped in eternal isolation because of the nightmares is what unintentionally causes Darkrai to be as tragic as well as terrifying. I love the design of Darkrai. I think it's one of the coolest kind of dark type Pokemon, and it totally fits the idea of that Nightmare on Elm Street kind of vibe for the horror thing for the Conjuring. I think it totally fits the vibe for that. Next, this one would be the case of the antimattered beast, which is Giratina. Now, Giratina is one of my absolute favorite legendary Pokemon, and this would be the crown jewel of the Warren's Pokemon collection, because Giratina rules the Distortion World, which is essentially the Pokemon underworld, you know? To them, it wouldn't just be a haunted object, it would be a cosmic demon, proof of an alternate hellish realm or alternate planes of existence. They will contain it in not out of hope of control, but for pure fear of what it could do if it was unleashed and left loose in the world. Now, the main star is in Giratina, and the Sky Warrior reappeared in Journeys, hostile, but later proven protective of its own realm. And I totally get that. If it was kind of banished to the Distortion World, I would be protective of it as well. But Giratina rules the Distortion World and a shadowy dimension opposite to reality. But Giratina has the power to be able to change its form as well. So it has two forms. And I think that kind of transformation power would be something that would feed into the Warrens' kind of fear of it and belief that this one should be sealed away. Banished by Arceus for its violent nature, it embodies antimatter and chaos. In the anime, its presence warps reality itself, and just think of the power that would have in the case for the Warrens. Its darkness isn't just in its design, it's literally the master of an underworld where physics and life don't work the same as ours. And I think that one would be like the Arc de Triomphe of their cases. It would be so tough of a case that I think they would have to have that as their crown jewel. But why would the Warrens lock these away? I think for Ed and Lorraine, these ghost-type Pokemon wouldn't be just Pokemon. They'd be manifestations of human fears and cursed folklore made real and made flesh. Some, like Shuppet and Drifloon, feed on negativity. Others, like Yamask and Spiritomb, are literally human souls. And some, like Darkrai and Giratina, represent forces far beyond human comprehension and become more kind of demonic. In the Warrens' eyes, each of these Pokemon isn't just dangerous in battle, they're walking haunted objects, which is partly why I kind of love the idea of ghost-type Pokemon, to be honest. In their Occult Museum, everyone would sit behind locked glass cases with their Pokeball sealed with prayers, just like the Annabelle doll is in the real Occult Museum. How do you think? What do you think of the Cursed Museum of Pokemon? Be sure to find me on social media. I am Chibi Trainer on Instagram and TikTok. I make a lot of Pokemon content, so do check me out on there. Before we sign off, keep your collection safe, like the Warrens in this episode with Vault X. Now, I use Vault X binders for all of my cards. It's the brand I trust the most, and you can save 10% with my code ChibiWeeb. So save 10% on your order of Vault X with my code ChibiWeeb, ChibiWeeb. Put it in the checkout, and whether you ordered from them before or not, save 10% with that code. Protect your collection like the Warrens protect the world by sealing these dark ghost-type Pokemon away in this metaphorical case for the episode. Be sure to subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and please do leave a rating. Please make it 5 stars if you've enjoyed this. It really does help promote the show, and it takes seconds and it's free to do. I'd love for more Pokemon fans, more trainers like me and you to find this podcast and support the show just by listening to it. So thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe, find me on social media, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, and remember, turn on the lights when you're walking around. You never know if a ghost Pokemon might be luring in the corner. Bye bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Bye bye.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.